Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World, fellow coin collectors, history lovers, and everyone out there with a jar of old pennies just waiting to be explored. Today, we're turning our spotlight to one of the most iconic and overlooked coins in American history, the 1981 Lincoln penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny. What could possibly be special about that? Well, by the end of this video, you might just be diving into your change jar or checking that old coin collection passed down from your grandparents. Because this small copper coin could be hiding a massive secret, and in rare cases, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. So sit back, relax, and join us as we uncover the fascinating story, striking design, and surprising value of the 1981 Lincoln penny. Let's start with a little history. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first time a U.S. president had ever appeared on a coin intended for everyday circulation. From that moment on, Lincoln's profile has been a constant companion in the pockets and wallets of Americans for generations. Fast forward to 1981. America was going through change, not just politically or economically, but in the very materials that made up its coins. You see, up until this point, most Lincoln cents were struck in 95% copper. But copper prices were rising fast, and the U.S. Mint was preparing for a major shift. In 1982, just 1 year later, they began transitioning to a copper-plated zinc composition, a change that would forever alter the look, feel, and value of the humble penny. That makes the 1981 Lincoln cent the last full year of the traditional copper penny. For collectors, that alone makes it a bit special. But there's more, much more. In 1981, the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln cents at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The ones from Philadelphia have no mint mark, while Denver pennies have a little D, and San Francisco struck proof coins with an S. With billions of pennies produced that year, it might seem like there's nothing rare about them, but here's the twist. While most 1981 pennies are still worth just 1 cent today, certain rare variations, especially those in uncirculated or proof condition, have caught the attention of collectors worldwide. And that's where things get exciting. You see, in coin collecting, condition is king. A penny that's been tossed around in pockets and purses for decades won't get you much. But one that's been carefully preserved, untouched by time, maybe even straight from a mint set? That's where the real value lies. Coins graded as mint state by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, especially those with grades of MS 67 or higher, are incredibly rare. And if you happen to have a proof version from San Francisco in pristine, mirror-like condition? Even better, but beyond just condition, there are also some fascinating varieties and mint errors to watch out for. In 1981, the Mint used 2 different types of lettering on the coins, Type 1 and Type 2. The differences are subtle, often involving the clarity of the letters in the word Liberty or the sharpness of the date. Type 2 proofs, for example, are known for having clearer, crisper designs and are more valuable to collectors. And then there are the holy grails of penny hunting, the error coins. These are the lucky few that made it through the minting process with something slightly off, maybe a double die, a misaligned strike, or a planchet error. These little flaws, invisible to most people, can mean huge profits for those who spot them. Now imagine this. You're going through your old coin collection. Maybe you inherited it, maybe you started collecting as a kid, or maybe you're just curious. You pull out a 1981 Lincoln cent, and it looks perfect. Shiny, detailed, untouched. You send it off for grading, and it comes back with a top-tier rating. Or even better, you notice something unusual. An error. A rare variation. Something that sets it apart from the billions of others. Suddenly, that little penny isn't so little anymore, because in the world of rare coins, one single 1981 Lincoln penny in exceptional, nearly flawless condition with the right combination of grade and rarity has been known to fetch up to $37,000. Yes, you heard that right. $37,000. All from a coin that most people wouldn't even stop to pick up off the ground. So the next time you see a penny, especially one from 1981, don't dismiss it. Examine it closely. Look for that mint mark, check its condition, and consider getting it appraised if it looks promising. You never know what kind of treasure might be hiding in plain sight. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most underrated coins in American history, the 1967 Lincoln penny. It might seem like just another old cent, but what if I told you that this little copper coin could be worth a small fortune? That's right. One tiny coin. 1 cent. From 1967. And it could be hiding in your home, your coin jar, or even your wallet right now. So don't blink, because today we're unlocking the secrets, the hidden value, and the collector's appeal behind this iconic piece of American currency. Trust me, you'll want to stick around until the end, because the final value of one rare 1967 Lincoln penny just might blow your mind. Let's start with the backdrop. The year was 1967. America was in the middle of cultural shifts, space exploration, and a rapidly changing society. It was the summer of love. The Vietnam War was escalating. Civil rights movements were transforming the nation. And through all of that, in the hustle and chaos of a changing world, millions of Lincoln cents were quietly rolling off the presses at the U.S. Mint. The Lincoln cent had already become a household staple since its first appearance in 1909. By 1967, it had firmly taken its place as the longest-running design in U.S. coinage. The obverse featured the unmistakable profile of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of unity, strength, and moral leadership. And on the reverse side, until 2008, you'd find the Lincoln Memorial, with its intricate pillars and symbolic detail. But here's something most people don't know about 1967, it was a very unusual year for American coins. Due to a nationwide coin shortage and a transition in minting processes, the U.S. Mint made some interesting decisions that year. Point 1 Major change? No mint marks. Normally, coins include a letter to indicate which U.S. Mint facility produced them, like D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But in 1965, 1966, and 1967, the Mint removed these marks from all coins to discourage hoarding and reduce confusion. So if you find a 1967 penny without a mint mark, don't worry. That's exactly how it was supposed to be. Now, even though over 3 billion Lincoln pennies were minted in 1967, the magic is not in how many were made. It's in how many survived in perfect, untouched condition, or better yet, how many contain extremely rare errors that slipped through the cracks. Let's talk about what collectors look for. First, condition is everything. A penny that's been tossed around, scratched, and worn down isn't going to bring in much more than face value. But a coin that looks like it just left the mint yesterday? That's a different story entirely. Coins that have been professionally graded by top services like PCGS or NGC and receive a grade of MS 66, MS 67, or even MS 68 are extremely rare. These coins shine with brilliant luster, have razor-sharp details, and show no signs of wear. And because so few 1967 pennies exist in that kind of condition, their value skyrockets among collectors who are hunting for that perfect piece to add to their collection. But wait, there's more: error coins. These are the holy grails for collectors. In 1967, several types of mint errors have been discovered, each with their own unique appeal. These include double die obverse, where the lettering or the date appears double due to a misalignment during the minting process. There are also off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even coins struck on the wrong metal blank, each one adding an entirely new level of rarity. Some 1967 pennies show incredibly strong doubling on the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." Others may have been struck just slightly off-center, creating a coin that looks bizarre, but is worth serious money to the right collector. And then there's the proof-like strikes. Those are coins that look like proofs even though they were struck for circulation. With mirror-like finishes and crisp details, these beauties stand out immediately to a trained eye. So imagine this. You're sifting through a dusty old box of coins, maybe something you inherited, maybe something you've kept since childhood. You pick up a 1967 penny. At first, it looks just like any other. But then the details start to stand out. The shine. The sharpness. The flaw, or maybe, the perfection, you send it off for grading, and it comes back with a top-tier score. Or even better, it turns out to be an ultra-rare error. Suddenly, that old penny becomes the most exciting thing you've ever held in your hands, because believe it or not, one single 1967 Lincoln penny in pristine condition, combined with a rare error and exceptional grading, has been valued by collectors at up to $46,000. Yes. You heard that right. $46,000, all for a coin that most people would pass over without a second glance. So now the question is, what's in your collection? Have you checked your old coins lately? That one penny sitting at the bottom of your drawer could be worth more than you ever imagined. Today, we're diving into a coin that millions of Americans have handled, pocketed, and probably forgotten about, the 1980 Lincoln penny. At first glance, this coin might not seem like much. It's tiny, it's copper, and it's worth just 1 cent. But beneath that modest surface lies a story filled with history, hidden details, and the potential for a seriously big payday. That's right, this little 1-cent coin could be worth far more than anyone would expect. So, whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's just now discovering the world of numismatics, stay with us. Because the 1980 Lincoln penny might just be the coin that changes everything. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1980. America was on the edge of a new decade. Ronald Reagan was gearing up for a presidential run. Inflation was high, gas prices were a constant topic of conversation, and a sense of transition hung in the air. And while the world was changing, the Lincoln penny remained a familiar presence in everyone's daily life, clinking around in pockets, dropping into piggy banks, and slipping through cash registers from coast to coast. The Lincoln cent, first minted in 1909, is the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. Its obverse, the side with Abraham Lincoln's profile, has remained remarkably consistent, showing one of America's most beloved presidents in a simple, solemn pose. On the reverse side, we still see the Lincoln Memorial, a striking and detailed design introduced in 1959 to mark Lincoln's 150th birthday, but 1980 was a special year for the penny. This was the final full year before a major change in minting materials would begin to take shape. Up until 1982, Lincoln pennies were made primarily of 95% copper. After that, due to rising metal costs, the composition was changed to copper-plated zinc, a cheaper alternative that looked the same but felt very different to serious collectors. That makes the 1980 penny one of the last, true copper, coins in circulation, and that alone gives it a certain nostalgic and collector's appeal. Now let's talk about the details collectors care about, because the value of a coin doesn't just come from its age or metal. It's all about condition, rarity, and in some cases, striking mistakes. The 1980 Lincoln penny was struck at 3 different U.S. mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You'll recognize these by the mint marks. A coin with a D below the date was minted in Denver. Coins from Philadelphia that year had no mint mark at all. And the most carefully struck, mirror-like proof coins were made in San Francisco, bearing an S mint mark. Most of the pennies produced that year were used for daily transactions. They got tossed in change jars, scraped across vending machines, and buried in couch cushions. So finding a 1980 penny in worn condition? That's easy. But finding one that's in brilliant, uncirculated condition, shiny, sharp, and flawless, that's where things start to get exciting. Now, let's take it a step further. Imagine a 1980 penny that not only survived the decades in perfect condition, but also has a rare mint error. These errors are the result of mistakes during the coin-making process, like a double die, off-center strike, or coin struck on the wrong metal planchet. And believe it or not, these tiny mistakes can make a coin one of a kind. Some of the most desirable error types found on 1980 pennies include strong double dies, especially on the obverse side where the date and lettering appear noticeably doubled. There are also off-center errors, where part of the design is cut off due to misalignment during striking. And perhaps the rarest of all, a 1980 penny mistakenly struck on a foreign or mis-sized blank. These unusual finds don't just make for great conversation pieces, they turn common sense into serious money. Let's not forget about the grading system. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with anything above 65 considered top tier. A 1980 penny graded MS67 or higher is extremely rare and highly prized in the collector world. So, what happens when you combine perfect condition, a rare mint error, and top-grade certification? You get a penny that's no longer worth just 1 cent. You get a coin that has serious value in the eyes of collectors and investors alike. Now imagine this: you're sorting through a box of old coins, maybe one that's been sitting in your attic for years. You spot a 1980 penny. At first glance, it looks like any other. But something catches your eye. It shines. It's sharp. Maybe the lettering looks a little unusual. You decide to get it appraised, and then, the moment arrives, you find out that your humble little penny is actually a rare variation, in pristine condition, and it's been professionally graded at one of the highest levels, and just like that, a coin you could have spent on a piece of gum could be worth $33,000. That's right. $33,000, all from one copper penny that someone else might have just tossed into a tip jar. So, the big question now is, do you have a 1980 Lincoln penny hiding in your collection? In your junk drawer? In that cup holder in your car? It might be time to start looking, because you never know what kind of treasure you're holding until you take a closer look. Today, you're going to start looking at the humble penny in a whole new light. That's right. We're talking about the 1977 Lincoln penny. A simple 1-cent coin, right? Not quite. What if I told you that this everyday piece of copper could, in rare cases, be worth thousands, yes, thousands, of dollars? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll be rushing to check every old penny you've ever collected. Let's start with a little history to set the scene. The year was 1977. Star Wars had just hit theaters, Elvis Presley was still performing, and the Apple II computer was changing the future of technology. America was buzzing with cultural change, and while the spotlight was on the big events of the decade, quietly and consistently, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of coins that would pass through countless hands across the country. Among them was the 1977 Lincoln cent, an iconic coin featuring the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It was small, it was copper, and for most people, it was nothing more than loose change, but as collectors know, sometimes the smallest details hide the biggest surprises. The 1977 penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1977, the design had remained largely unchanged, with Lincoln's stoic portrait on one side and the Lincoln Memorial, complete with a tiny figure of Lincoln visible between the columns, on the other. These pennies were minted in huge numbers at two main facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia minted coins from that year have no mint mark, while Denver coins have a small D just beneath the date. So what makes any of these worth more than a single cent? Well, there are a few important things to understand. First up is condition. The vast majority of these coins were used in everyday transactions, which means they got scratched, worn down, and tossed into pockets and drawers. But a small percentage, especially those that were never circulated or were kept in pristine condition, still exist today in what's known as mint state. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with anything over 65 considered extremely high quality. A 1977 penny graded at MS 66 or above is rare, and when you get into the highest levels, like MS 67 or MS 68, collectors are willing to pay serious money to get their hands on one. But that's not all. There's another category of coins that gets collectors truly excited: error coins. And 1977 produced some very interesting ones. One of the most sought after is the double die obverse, a minting error where the image or lettering appears slightly doubled. This happens when the coin die is struck more than once in slightly different positions. On a 1977 penny, that could mean you see doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date itself. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin design isn't properly aligned, leaving part of the design missing or shifted. These kinds of errors can be visually dramatic and extremely collectible. You might also come across clipped planchet errors, where a part of the coin's edge looks like it was sliced off. Or even coins struck on the wrong metal blank, which can be incredibly rare. all of these varieties are what make the 1977 Lincoln penny such a thrilling coin to search for. You never know what you're going to find. Now let's take it one step further. Imagine this. You're at home, going through an old coin collection. Maybe it's yours, maybe it belonged to a grandparent. You find a shiny penny dated 1977. It looks different, maybe sharper, maybe cleaner. You look closer and see something unusual. You decide to get it graded. It comes back as a near-perfect specimen. Or maybe, even better, it turns out to be one of those rare double-die varieties or a one-of-a-kind mint error, and suddenly, that simple penny becomes something very, very valuable, because in rare cases, a 1977 Lincoln penny with the right combination of condition, rarity, and error has been valued at up to $38,500. Yes, you heard that right. $38,500, all for a coin most people would toss into a tip jar without thinking twice. So the next time you see a 1977 penny, don't ignore it. Take a moment. Look closely. You never know, you might just be holding onto a hidden treasure. Today, we're zooming in on a coin that just might be sitting unnoticed in your change jar or buried in an old drawer, the 1981 Lincoln penny. That's right. 1 cent. So small, so simple, yet it holds a story you're not going to believe. Because while most people would toss this little copper coin aside without a second thought, collectors in the know are searching high and low for rare versions of the 1981 penny that could be worth a surprising amount of money. So stick with me, because by the time we're done, you'll never look at this little coin the same way again. Let's set the scene. The year is 1981. Ronald Reagan is about to take the White House, MTV hasn't hit the airwaves yet, and gas is just over $1 a gallon. Times were changing fast, and so was the US Mint. This was a big moment for American coins, especially the penny. Because while 1981 might seem like just another year for the Lincoln cent, it was actually the end of an era. You see, ever since 1909, when the Lincoln penny was first introduced, the design had been a symbol of American values, honoring one of the most respected presidents in history. The obverse featured Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile, while the reverse, since 1959, showed the Lincoln Memorial in stunning detail. But what makes the 1981 penny so fascinating is what happened just after. In 1982, the US Mint made a major change. Due to rising copper prices, they stopped using nearly pure copper in the penny and switched to a cheaper composition, zinc with a thin copper coating. This change didn't just affect the weight and feel of the coin, it marked the end of the classic copper penny. That makes 1981 the last full year where every penny was struck with 95% copper. That fact alone makes it more interesting to collectors. But wait, there's more. In 1981, pennies were struck at 3 major locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Denver coins carry a small D mint mark, San Francisco coins have an S, and Philadelphia coins, at that time, had no mint mark at all. Now, while billions of 1981 pennies were made, what makes them valuable is not just the year or where they came from, it's how well they were preserved and whether they contain rare mint errors or varieties. Let's talk about condition first. When we say a coin is valuable, we're not talking about the ones that have been rattling around in pockets and piggy banks for the last 40 years. We're talking about coins that are in mint state, coins that have never been in circulation, with perfect or near-perfect surfaces, original luster, and sharp, clean details. The grading system used by professional services like PCGS or NGC ranges from 1 to 70, with anything over 65 considered extremely desirable. A 1981 penny graded MS 67 or higher is incredibly hard to find, and it's those coins that start drawing attention from serious collectors. But there's another layer: mint errors and varieties. Some 1981 pennies feature doubling on the obverse, called a double die, where the lettering or date appears slightly doubled. Others were struck off-center, or on planchets, coin blanks, meant for other denominations. Some even have variations in the mint mark or strike pressure, creating subtle but valuable differences from the standard coin. Error coins are like finding a glitch in the matrix. They're rare, they're unusual, and they're in high demand. And then, there's one more twist: the 1981 penny is one of the few coins with a lesser-known but very important distinction. Type 1 versus Type 2 proofs. These proof coins, specially struck for collectors, were made in San Francisco. Type 1 proofs have a more rounded S mint mark, while Type 2s have a clearer, sharper version. Type 2 proofs are far rarer and can be significantly more valuable. So imagine this. You're going through an old coin collection, maybe it's yours, maybe it belonged to a family member. You pull out a 1981 penny. It's shiny, it looks untouched, and the details are crisp. You send it off for grading. Or maybe, just maybe, you notice something unusual. The mint mark looks different. The lettering looks doubled. It has a clear mint error. Suddenly, this little coin, the one you almost overlooked, isn't just a penny anymore, because in rare cases, a 1981 Lincoln penny in pristine mint state, especially with a notable error or proof variation, has been known to sell for as much as $31,500. Yes, you heard that right. $31,500, all from a coin you might have passed over on the sidewalk. So the next time you're going through your coins or find yourself holding a 1981 penny, take a second look. It might be worth more than you think, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden value of one of America's most familiar coins, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more rare coin stories, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out. There's a whole world of treasures hidden in plain sight, and we're here to help you find them. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting.